Hello, welcome to another edition of Escaping the City. This one's called Connection. It's all about getting these things connected up to these things, routers, and to world outside. We didn't move to the countryside to escape the rat race or sort of set up a farm or become llama breeders or anything like that. Maybe we will end up as llama breeders or who knows what, but more just to see what happens living out here rather than surrounded by thousands of people. So we've kept our jobs. I'm really just kind of playing at being a farmer a little bit, which is quite fun. But I know that to actually get food on the table, I don't need to rely on cutting fields with a scythe or hunting or growing things. And if my harvest fails, then I can just buy them at the supermarket instead, because I've got a day job. My day job relies on a connection to the internet. Now our house, I think it does have a telephone connection, but it's a very slow one. It's less than 4 megabits per second, which is going to be way too slow for the kind of things we do, which requires Teams connections and video chats and uploading files and such like. But we don't need it super fast. Back where I used to live in the city, we didn't have a super fast connection, but it was quite enough for what we needed, even with two of us on video chats simultaneously. So I hunted around to try and find a way to connect via 4G or 5G, and I got hold of this. It's a fairly old 4G router. This one's a Huawei one. Of course, in one of those we need some kind of SIM as well. The best deal I could find was from a company called Smarty, which I think is part of the 3 network. That costs £20 a month, and I made sure I chose a contract which had unlimited speed and unlimited amount of megabytes, gigabytes, both of which are quite important. A lot of them have, massive data allowances, but they're capped at a certain speed, so you're limited even if you've got a really good connection. Today it is pouring with rain. As you can see, the television is really struggling, but I'm doing okay because of my antenna. Now on a good day, I can open this window and the internal aerials in my router, I'm upstairs and quite high up, they work better than the antenna does even. I could try repositioning the antenna and see if that works better in different places, but it's quite a pain to do, and it's good enough. I've chosen an omnidirectional antenna and it will just reach with these cables, but it does mean they go through a slightly ajar window. So as winter comes on, the draft coming through this window may become a bit of a pain. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to do about that. Maybe shut the window in the night. I don't know. Or even drill holes through the walls. That's a possibility. But I'd rather not do that unless I have to. So a bit more about the connections. Your router should have a number, probably on a label on the back, which will let you use a browser to get into its internal admin interface and show you a bunch of numbers a bit like this. You'll see all these numbers like RSRQ, RSRP, SINR, and these show how strong your signal is, but they're not everything. Signal to noise ratio, SINR, that should be a large number. The bigger the number, if it's in dB, the better. I'm getting 13 dB at the moment. You'll have an RSRQ and an RSRP number, which are kind of related to each other. I can't remember what they stand for now. It's something about signal quality. Received signal, received quality, something like that. Generally, the negative dB numbers, the closer that is to 0, the better. So minus 40 is a lot worse than minus 10. And I think they're an exponential scale. You're almost certainly never going to get anywhere near minus 1 or 0. I've got minus 13, and that's, working okay. But of course, the most important numbers are the ones in your broadband speed checker. There are lots of broadband speed checkers out there. Basically, they just download some data and upload the data and tell you how quickly it's come down and gone up. So you get a download speed and an upload speed. If you're on a wireless connection like we are, then you'll find those numbers vary wildly. Even during the test, they might jump from 100 down to 12 up to 80 and such like megabits per second. Generally, as long as things work okay for you, you don't really need to worry too much about it. One thing I have noticed though is that your cell ID, which tells you which cell tower you're connecting to, and they're obviously a lot more sparsely populated with cell towers here in rural places than you would have in a city. Ideally, you should have your antennae sort of facing one of the cell towers if you know where they are. There are maps out there where you can, online, where you can find out where your nearest towers are, but they might not necessarily be 100% up to date. I've noticed at times my cell ID might suddenly change and I'll find my internet is just running horribly slowly, just unusably slowly. And that will probably be because the routers picked a stronger signal. But a good analogy is if you were listening to the radio and the signal was awful and you just turned up the volume, you'd still have an awful signal, but it'd be very loud. And sometimes another cell tower will have a much stronger signal, but the quality or the speed of the data you get through that strong signal is just pants, basically. You probably will notice that I've faked the red light on the front of the router because I didn't dare turn it off and actually get a no signal light because I was so worried that I'd lose my connection to the cell tower, which is the actual quick one, because it's got a slightly less strong signal than another cell tower a few miles away from here, but it is a lot quicker. So I keep this on all the time, and even keeping it on all the time, sometimes it might just suddenly switch to a different cell tower. In probably about 2.5 months of being here, we did have 1.5 days where we just couldn't get a decent signal at all, and we had to rely on my partner's mobile phone with generating a mobile hotspot. So I'd say if you're on a wireless connection and you really rely on it for work, then always have a mobile phone on a different network which you can get a wireless hotspot, ideally with an unlimited data connection as well, because otherwise you'll get in trouble for and if you rely on your job to earn your money, then that's very important. There are much more expensive alternatives like is it the Skynet or the Starlink, the Elon Musk system? But somebody was telling me that was something like £70 a month and quite a large setup fee as well. And I thought, if I can do it myself, then I'm going to try for that first and save £50 a month, which is rather good. Before we moved, I had this set up on the 4G connection for a couple of months just to make sure it really would work. And that's definitely worth trying to make sure that a wireless connection can keep up with what you need to do. It does take a lot longer to upload my YouTube videos now, but I'm actually paying less than I used to pay for my landline and broadband setup in the city. I have heard that there is fibre being connected in my area, but even though it's £18 a month, so a price saving for the first 12 months or 18 months, it suddenly jumps up to about £40 a month after that. So for the time being, I'm going to stick with what I've got, since it seems to be working okay most of the time. Anyway, I hope that helps you make your decision about whether to move out of the city. And of course, the advantage of this, particularly if I've got some portable power, is I can take this anywhere and still have my same connection as long as there's a mobile tower somewhere nearby. So if I go away on holiday to a place where there's no wireless and no router, I can take my router along, plug it in, and I'm plugged in straight away. So if we ever do some more cat sitting in different places, we can take this and have our own network that we're used to, and everything will be connected as if it was at home. See you next time.